After learning about the Wells Fargo case, what were some of the underlying thoughts that you had about the case? Did the actions of the bank leaders surprise you? And would you trust Wells Fargo as your bank after learning what they did? Now, you might be surprised to learn that some financial analysts said this was the worst financial scandal of all time, primarily because Wells Fargo acted so completely contrary to the interest of its customers. What do you think?
When studying ethics, it is often helpful to use examples like Wells Fargo and other cases to consider possible outcomes and actions in real-life ways. Throughout the course, we will share cases like this in part to help you learn specific principles, but also to help you create value judgments for your own life, to help you create a moral code, so to speak. By doing so, we hope that you will come to a clear definition of personal ethics in your own life and career.
And while there are many different ethical concepts that we could discuss throughout the course, we're primarily going to focus on 5 key ethics principles. Those 5 key ethics principles are trust, proximity, accountability, cultural lag, and privacy. Some of these concepts, like trust and accountability, will be really familiar and easy to understand, but some of the others, especially proximity and cultural lag, might take some additional study.
And please also keep in mind, even though the basic premise of some concepts might be familiar and easy to understand, the challenge is to extrapolate out and consider how those concepts are going to affect us as technologies change in the future. For example, while we all understand the basic meaning of the term privacy, how do you think that concept will adapt and change with the advent of AI and facial recognition software? In this class, we will ask you to look into the future a bit and try to predict what likely but unexpected consequences will result, whether good or bad.
Okay, so let's get started with the first key ethics principle, trust. Now, we already mentioned trust a lot in this module, and this is probably the simplest concept to understand. So for example, it doesn't take a finance or a law degree to understand the deceptive practices of Wells Fargo and its staff was incredibly unethical and likely criminal. So we're not going to dwell too much on the concept of trust now, but it is worth repeating yet again that the entire financial system is built on trust, and therefore the bulk of criminal financial law punish any breach of trust, or what we professionally call fiduciary obligations. And as a side note, for those of you that are familiar with the term fiduciary, it might interest you to know the Latin root for the word literally means one who holds something in trust.
Whether it was 250 years ago in a small European village where everyone knew each other, or in the much more complicated global marketplace that we have today, we have to understand that without a certain level of trust, the entire economic system comes crumbling down. Both traditional financial players and new fintech innovators must keep this in mind and ensure that their products and services continue to enhance trust.
In fact, because financial institutions play such an important role in society, and since most people are so clueless about complex financial products, most countries actually have disclosure requirements, meaning that banks have to be truthful and transparent with their customers, making sure they understand the nature of what they're buying or investing in.
If banks are not forthright about material information, they can have significant penalties, including fines and possibly jail time. In other words, financial institutions have a higher level of trust placed on them by society, so therefore they have higher penalties if they breach that trust.
As a result, one of the major considerations relating to fintech revolves around the need to ensure that all fintech applications and innovations enhance social and consumer trust, rather than diminish it. It would be unethical, for example, for unsafe or unclear financial products to be introduced into the market via a new fintech app. Now, unfortunately, some early iterations of fintech have only caused the public to question the ethical use of these technologies. For example, the use of cryptocurrency to facilitate crimes has caused many people some alarm.
We need to address these concerns right from the beginning and ensure that tech innovators and finance professionals consider not only the bottom line, but also the importance of maintaining balance and trust in society.